The president meeting at the White House as we speak on Ferguson. Reports say that one of the guys he's meeting with is Al Sharpton. Sharpton also tweeting out that he's in D.C. heading to meetings on Ferguson and police policy nationally. Critics claim Sharpton would only be adding fuel to the fire over Ferguson.
We have had enough. Even if we get knocked down, we get up and go to the corner and come out fighting the next round. This will not end in the valley here. We're going to keep on going. The fight is not over.
Reverend Jesse Peterson thinks that Sharpton ain't the solution. He's part of the problem. Reverend, good to have you back. Why do you say he's making things worse?
Thank you, Neil, and I hope you had a good Thanksgiving holiday.
To you as well, sir.
Thank you. Putting Al Sharpton as the point person over race issues is like putting a fox over the hen house. Al Sharpton is a race hustler. He is a race hustler. He does not care about uniting the races with truth. He's about dividing them with lies. And then because Obama has appointed him as the point person, it says to me that our president is not serious about uniting the races. And the fact is, if we really were honest about what happened in Ferguson, Michael Brown is dead because of Michael Brown. Michael Brown is dead because he had failing parents who were not together and raised him in the right way. When he decided that he was going to rob a convenience store, attack the clerk, go out into the street and attack police officer, Michael Brown decided that day that he was ready to die. So that's on him. Al Sharpton knows that, Barack Obama understands that, Eric Holder understands that, and all of the so-called civil rights leaders, even Michael Brown's parents understand that, but they will not tell the truth because the truth will settle things and put the responsibility back on the parents and Michael Brown, and the race hustlers do not want that.
This could explain why you're not at this particular meeting, Reverend. I am curious, though. We don't know who's on that list, but the cynic in me, and I hope I'm wrong, tells me that it's people who agree with the president, or at least the tone of the president's remarks, not only right after the Ferguson shooting, but after the Ferguson grand jury decision, that this was kind of a travesty. The bottom line, it was a travesty.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't fair. So they are probably of a like-minded ilk.
Absolutely. Obama has been in the White House now for 6 years, and we're more divided as a race than any other time in history. And if anyone would have been able to bring the races together, it would have been Barack Obama, because most white Americans voted for Barack Obama because they had hope that now we have a black president, that somehow or another black Americans will understand that white Americans are not against them, that they're for them. But that is not what the president wants. That is not what the race hustlers want at all. Even we saw Obama in action with the Trayvon Martin situation when he came out and said, if I had a son, he would look just like Trayvon Martin. And that's those were coded words saying that this was a race issue, when it's really not, Neil. It breaks my heart to see how our young black kids are being deceived by adults who they respect the most. They respect Barack Obama, and if Barack Obama made black parents be responsible for their children, and when the kids grow up, become responsible for yourself, they will listen to that, but they do not want peace in our country. Can you imagine what would have happened had President Bush appointed David Duke as the point person for race issues in America? There would have been an outcry about that. But due to fear of being called racist, white Americans are not speaking out for the most part. And because most blacks are racist toward white Americans, they are not speaking up either. And I'm very concerned about my country. I don't like what I see happening in my country today. And one other quick point, because of the way Barack Obama and the race hustlers are dealing with this issue, we're going to see more and more white Americans under attack by black Americans across this country, because the one thing that most black people have more than anything else is anger, false anger against white Americans rather than looking at themselves.
And it's gotten worse. Reverend, thank you very much. I always learn a lot talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank
But he'll never be invited to White House meetings if he keeps that up. Meanwhile, this was the scene outside the Justice Department today. Protesters staging what they call a die-in to protest the Ferguson decision. This as Attorney General Eric Holder heads to Atlanta tonight. He'll be holding the first of several meetings planned across the country between law enforcement and community leaders. Judge Anna Napolitano says Holder can remain impartial throughout all of this. Everything's going to be okay. If he can't, everything's not going to be okay.
You know, one wonders if he's going there as a prosecutor, intending to indict Officer Wilson for a federal violation, and he's not off the hook for that yet, which the Attorney General has every right and lawful ability to do, or if he's going there in order to wrap his arms around the two competing communities, white and black, about which the Reverend just spoke so eloquently, right, in order to bring them together. There clearly are problems here. There are profound problems in Ferguson between a predominantly black populace and a predominantly white police force. Whether Al Sharpton makes it better or worse, Al Sharpton is a free individual who can say what he wants. Eric Holder is the people's servant. He is the chief federal law enforcement officer in the land. If he makes it worse, the federal government is really failing us.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think if we had had an indictment handed over last week, that Eric Holder would be doing anything right now?
No, I don't think he would. I think that the general rules of the Justice Department would be, let this state prosecution play out before you do anything.
So this didn't turn out to his liking or the administration's liking, and he at least is giving the appearance of getting or forcing the kind of decision that he does like.
Well, you know, I don't know what he wants. One of your great producers said to me, is Eric Holder impartial? And I said, prosecutors are never, in caps, impartial. They know what they want. Either they want an indictment because they believe somebody violated the law and they can get the person convicted, or they don't want an indictment for some social policy reason. Mr. Holder has not told us what he wants, but he can get what he wants. But he has been very
demeaning, talking about the local jurisdiction, about how authorities there have handled this. Some of that might be fair, some of them might be right, but he has a special purview here, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
He is the law of the land.
He has the final say. Or we'll go to Loretta Lynch, the woman who's very capable, very able, and has been nominated to succeed him. But the feds will have the final say in this. Honestly, Neil, I don't think that Officer Wilson should have gone on the national talk shows this weekend. You know, you don't taunt the alligator until after you cross the stream. He's not out of the woods yet.
But he's out of the police department with no benefits, no pay, none of that. But you're saying he still should have avoided the press period.
Yes, because he still could be prosecuted by the feds. And let's put it this way.
And on what basis? Redoing what the grand jury already dismissed?
And presenting it in a different way.
In what way?
This prosecutor threw everything on the wall and decided to let the grand jury decide what would stick. He presented people he knew were not eyewitnesses. He presented people who contradicted themselves and contradicted profound, uncontradictable.
But isn't that a logical thing to do?
No.
Oh, it is
not. If the prosecutor wants an indictment, he presents his best evidence and saves his weak spots for the trial. If he doesn't want an indictment, he throws everything up in the air and lets the grand jury decide.
So what do you make of his going on for 20 minutes before we got the official read about how exhaustive this was? Did he hurt himself?
It drove me crazy because I wanted to know what the outcome was, and I thought, well, he's going this way, he's going that way. I don't think he did a good job of defending himself. However, by releasing all of the evidence that the grand jury saw, including the transcripts of the testimony, he made it easy for us to understand why there was no indictment.
So let me ask you this finally. If there is a federal grand jury and no indictment is rendered, then what?
We'll probably see this kind of disruption again. I hope and pray that I'm wrong, but that will be the end of it if there's no federal indictment. But if there's no federal indictment, that will mean that Barack Obama and Eric Holder do not want an indictment, because if they do, they know how to get one. The prosecutor always gets what he wants from a grand jury, barring an extreme circumstance.
You know, you might have a future at this legal thing.
I've been trying.
Yeah, pretty good.
I've been trying.
Seriously, Judge, thank you. Clarified quite a bit.
You're welcome.
Black and white terms. So you want to get Putin hurting? Just watch what happens if these oil prices keep dropping. Then you get Keystone up and running. Watch this dictator start running.